good evening. It's Monica from Life is Art and Scrap. It's almost Monday. Let's create. Hold on to your hats. We're going down. And we are joining you today to do some scrapbooking. Just getting the camera in the right position. Are we there? Are we there? Yeah, I think we're pretty good. And so we're going to be creating today, making a layout, and um, we're going to be using a collection from the annual catalog. It's called To Market. Let me just find it here. To Market. And it's got some lovely patterns, some florals, some vegetables. It's got bags. It's got a couple different plaids. It's got some dots, wood grain, all sorts of fun things in here. And so we're going to be using this paper pack. Then we're also going to be using some stamp sets. Weirdly enough, we're going to be using the Cutest Cows, and we're going to be using Love This Moment. We're also going to be using a couple of die sets, and those are these ones here, which are the stylish shapes and the mini alphabet dies. Okay, so lots of things happening on this layout, and this is kind of a fun style of layout if you have more or less photos. It's kind of the same idea. You're creating blocks of things, and you'll see what that means as we go along here. We're going to start out with a piece of basic white cardstock, 12 by 12. I'm just going to go ahead and put some adhesive in the center back and stick it down to my mat, if I can get a hold of it. So we're going to line it up because we're going to need our grid lines to help us line things up on our layout. You may even find that it's useful to use a ruler for this, so I have my ruler handy in case I need it. And I thought I would start out by showing you the photos that I'm going to be using. But if you're joining me live, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later on replay, you can say replay. Now, the camera is just slightly at a weird angle. I don't know if I can fix it or not, but it's kind of giving me weird vibes. Like something's just a little askew, but that's okay. We'll keep working on it. I see Lynn is here. Good evening, Lynn. Nice to see you're watching. So the photos that we're going to use today, we're going to be used. These are photos from a few years ago. My son was probably, I think, in grade 8. 7 or 8 when I took this photo. And he was making supper this night. He, pardon me, frog in my throat. He had chosen the menu. We had gone to the store. We had bought the ingredients, and he was in charge of making dinner, which he likes to do. And all throughout high school, he ended up taking lots of food nutrition classes and whatnot. So he decided we were going to have salad. A lettuce salad. We also had bean salad. There's his finished lettuce salad. He set the table. We were also having hot dogs and veggie dogs for dinner along with our salads. So that's where the two photos that we're using. And sometimes it's awkward to use just two photos, especially when the two photos are on different formatting. One is portrait, one is landscape, but there's only two of them. When there's a third photo, or maybe if they're both the same size and shape, it really helps. Now my photos have been trimmed down a little bit. Hey, Heather. So this one, the landscape one, is 5 1/4 by 3 1/2. And then the portrait one is 3 1/2 by 5 3/4. So they're the same size this way. But this one's taller, and I couldn't really shrink it down any because he's so tall. So he just kind of was there. So that's where we're starting with as our two photos. And I want to mat my photos using the Blackberry Bliss cardstock. And if you'll notice here, our our table is a dark brown, and I thought that the Blackberry Bliss really looks nice with that dark brown. So I have cut my cardstock to be, just because the sizes are weird, but it's about 1/4 of an inch bigger than my photo. So we're going to have 1/8 of an inch all the way around. So this landscape one is 5.5 by 3 3/4. So let's go ahead and we're going to mat our photo on there, try and center it. If I can get the backing off. There we go. So we're going to center that on our mat. Oops. I really do like this Blackberry Bliss. Why is it going so crooked? My eyeballs, I tell you. Maybe my screen is straight and it's my eyeballs that are crooked when I think that my video is crooked. There we go. Gotta love the crooked eyeballs. Let's see everything crookedly. Alrighty. Let's line that one up. All right. So I'm going to be attaching my pieces of paper to this layout base, and I'm going to leave 1/2 of an inch border all the way around my entire page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by putting my ruler at 1/2 an inch in from this right hand side so that I have a nice straight start to my layout. Okay. And then I want to come 1/2 of an inch down, which of course would be easier if I had my ruler facing this way, because there are inches on here. Are there? The other end is so much better. How am I going to do that? All right, what am I going to do? So I'm going to grab a sticky note. It's always handy to have little sticky notes on hand. I'm going to make myself a fake ruler here. I'm going to mark 1/2 an inch down from the top, and I'm just going to stick my sticky note on it. And that will give me a line to go by. Oh, for this direction. There we go. So we're coming 1/2 an inch in. Normally I'm not quite so precise with that, but we know you don't want to start out the whole thing crooked, right? I'm already having trouble with that. So let's line that up and stick it down. 1/2 an inch in, 1/2 an inch down. We'll keep that handy in case we need it. Alrighty then. Now I'm not going to stick this one down just yet. We're going to go ahead and add some more pieces. So I want to add more of that Blackberry Bliss cardstock, but I also want to add some pattern. So I have here a piece of Blackberry Bliss and a piece of the pumpkin pie and peach pie dotted together, which is a lovely combination from that To Market collection. My matting is 3 3/4 by 3 3/8, and then my piece of paper is 3.5 by 3 1/8. So again, it's going to have 1/4 inch matting all the way around the pattern paper. This side actually looked really good too, but I decided I wanted to make it a little lighter. So that's what we did. We're just going to center that on there, and then we're going to stick it onto our base. But what we're going to do is, because I'm trying to line things up, we're going to grab this and line it up again with the 11.5, so 1/2 an inch in and 1/2 an inch up. 1/2 an inch up? Yeah, that's 1/2 an inch up. It's a little easier when it's closer to my face. And we're going to stick that down. Now, you know me, quite often when I'm adding things, I like to add the outside first, and then the inside spacing is whatever is left, okay? So I've also grabbed a piece of the wood grain from that To Market collection, and this wood grain has been cut to 3 3/4 by 1 inch. So we're keeping the 3 3/4 all the way down this row, and this one is not getting matted. We're just going to leave it as is. We can even bring in our ruler if we want to make sure that we're lining everything up. and then we're just going to center it in between. And there should be about 1/4 of an inch of space in between those other two panels. And that's why we ended up with like that that 1/8 measurement down here. And so that happens sometimes. So you just got to roll with it, right? Okay. Now, up in this top corner, again, this photo is still floating around. So don't let me forget that the photo is floating around. We're going to add our sticky note back up here in this corner. Let's come down 1/2 inch. And the sticky notes are great for this because they come unstuck so easily. And we're going to come in our 1/2 inch from the edge. This is also why sticking down your layout is such a good idea, your base page, so it doesn't shift around. So up in this top corner, we're going to come in with another piece of Blackberry Bliss that has been cut to 5 3/4 by 1.5. And when you make this kind of layout, you're going to just work with the photos that you have and work out your own measurements. Just try to keep your matting consistent throughout, and make sure that your spacing works so that you end up with 1/2 inch or whatever you decide around the outside edge of your layout. That's all you need to do. All right, so let's put our sticky note back over there. And then let's also bring in, I've got a piece that I want to use for journaling, and it's just basic white. There's nothing to it. It's just basic white, and it has been cut to 2.5 by 2 inches. And whenever I give measurements, the 2.5, the first number is the horizontal, and then the second number is the vertical. So that helps trying to sort things out in your mind, I think. All right, so we're going to come in that 1/2 inch, like so. And we're going to leave that 1/4 of an inch space. Now, I'm not centering this in the middle of two other things, just because we haven't got those other things there yet, but that's okay. The next piece I want to add is another piece of the Blackberry Bliss cardstock. Hey, Rhonda, nice to see you're watching. And this is 4 3/4 by 2 inches. So same width as the one above. We'll just make sure we're lined up with that 1/2 inch in from the edge, and we're going to leave 1/4 of an inch there, like that, and stick it down. Now, again, still floating, got to remind myself of that. At the bottom here, I'm going to frame, if you notice looking at our layout already, that the Blackberry Bliss is touching all of the 4 corners, and that really helps. There are going to be other places like here and here where there's no Blackberry Bliss, but it's not on a pivotal corner. So your eye just continues the line past those. Okay, but if we had a corner that didn't have that dark line, it would look out of place. So down here, I have a piece of Blackberry Bliss that is 7 inches by 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to add on a strip that is 6 3/4 by 1/2 inch of the beautiful green plaid from this collection, and we're going to just center that on our piece, like so. And I think this is nice because it picks up the green from the salad, which is, of course, the exciting part here, was that he was making dinner. And line that back up. We're going to come 1/2 inch up from the bottom, like so. It should line up with our other side. It should leave about 1/4 of an inch, but if it's a little bit gappy, that's okay. We'll work with it. We're okay with gappiness. Okay, so again, this is still floating. Now we want to add a couple things in here. So I'm going to actually add 2 pieces that are the exact same size. And these 2 pieces are the wood grain and also these little pumpkin and peach pie flowers. Aren't they so pretty? Just a teeny tiny little pattern. And these are 1 1/4 by 1 3/4. Okay, so let's add those on. We're going to remove the backing off one, and we're going to kind of center them here. So I'm going to put my floral down at the bottom using our 1/2 inch increment on our ruler to bump us in from the edge. And then we're just going to stack them. And I kind of laid this other one down without taking the backing off so that I could do my spacing. Get that 1/4 inch gap in between everything as much as I can. Okay. Now we can come in with our photo, and we have left a nice space here where this photo can just kind of fill in the space. And if there's too much over here, we can bump it over a little bit. I don't want to go too far because I don't want it to kind of get out of alignment too much with that bottom piece. But you can see the nice sort of grid that we're creating, but it's not an even grid. Sometimes we do, you know, 3 squares by 3 squares, and we fill it all in, or 9 squares. And that is gorgeous too. I love grids, but this is sort of an asymmetrical, uneven grid, which I think is fun. We got to mix it up sometimes. So then let's bring in the last couple little bits here. We've got another piece of that beautiful green plaid, so we're going to pull it up to this space here beside where we're going to do our journaling. And this has been cut to 2 inches by 2 inches, just a square. Now the other plaid that's in this collection is purple. It's a purple color, probably Blackberry Bliss. And it is a diagonal plaid. And I had pulled it out to use, and then I decided it didn't quite jive, having that diagonal lines along with all of these very vertical and horizontal lines. It just, something felt off about it. So sometimes you need to hold things up together and decide whether they work. Now, I've pulled in the same little floral here that we have just a little touch of down here, and we're going to put it in this big section. And that's the other thing when you're creating. You want to think about which patterns you're going to use, how much of it, and how are they. Oops. Ooh, no. Of course, it landed adhesive side down right on top of the photo. Let's see. Hold your breath, everyone. I didn't even push it down. It just dropped. That's good stickiness. Okay. Well, if the photo gets damaged, we'll just print the photo again, but after the video. But I think we're going to be okay. Whew! Goodness gracious. Who knew so much excitement was going to happen today? Okay, so let's go ahead and see if we can maybe get this in the right spot now. We're going to center it from side to side. We're going to try and line it up. It looks like this is a little bit taller than this space, but we're going to line it up as best we can. It does have a pale background, so that helps it to kind of blend in and merge with everything else that's happening around it. And so that is the basis for our grid. Like I said, we've sort of got that blackberry line around the outside. We've got that sort of pumpkin pie and peach pie colors in 3 areas. We've got green happening in 2, but there's also our salad happening. Then we've got a couple pieces of wood grain that are kind of on opposite sides. So everything's kind of carrying around. You'll notice we sort of have a line here and a line here. So we have a solid vertical and a solid horizontal, but they are not centered on the layout. We've got like a little section down here, a big section up here, and then 2 medium sections over here. And that's very pleasing to your eyeball. Heather's like, I hate it when that happens. Right? It's even worse if you drop the ink pad. Who has done that? 3/4 of the way through a project and ink pad right in the soup. Oh yes, it happens to us. And then you have to embellish. You have to embellish it a little here and there. Okay, so now we've got our base down. We've got our matting. We've got our pattern papers. Now we get to do the fun bit, which is the embellishing. So one thing that I wanted to do was use that Stylish Shapes dies to cut out a nice peach pie circle, and that's actually going to go right in the center of this square over here to make kind of a nice little spot. And I'm going to be using one of the sentiments from the Cutest Cow stamp set that says, "The little things you do make such a big difference." And I think that's important. You know, when your kids help out and they do things around the house, it helps to say thank you. That really helped. Because they're more inclined to do it again, right? So here I am, the ink pad open, sitting right on top of my layout. All right, we're going to take this sentiment, make sure we've seasoned it. We're going to ink it up. Fingers crossed. We're going to add it on our circle. Lovely. And I'm using the Blackberry Bliss ink for this because I thought that would look really nice on the layout. Just keeping everything consistent. I could have used black ink for that, but you know what? I thought, why not? Let's go ahead and use the Blackberry Bliss. Now I'm going to add some adhesive to the back of that. You may have noticed that I had adhesive on the back of a lot of my pieces already, but I refrained from doing it on the things I was going to stamp on because even though it's just a little bit of adhesive and backing, it makes a difference when you go and try and stamp on it. And I think I actually stamped on the back side of my circle because I can tell by the way the dots are, but that's okay. We're just going to use it on the back side. It's still going to give us that stitched effect, and I'm okay with that. All right, so we've got our nice little circle there. Then I want to do some more stamping. Now for this particular bit of stamping, I'm going to move my layout out of the way, I think. So I've got a piece of Blackberry Bliss that's been cut to 2 1/4 by 3/4, and it's going to kind of go in right here. It's not really centered in the florals per se, but it's centered against this little row of pieces. And I'm going to do some white heat embossing on that. And then I've got another piece that I haven't cut exactly to size, but it's Blackberry Bliss as well. And it's 3/8 of an inch. And it's going to come down here and kind of overhang this little rectangle, but I'm going to trim it off once I'm done heat embossing because it's such a tiny little piece that I need something to hold on to. So let me just shift my layout out of the way, remembering that there's adhesive on the back. So we're just going to peel it up, and I'm going to flip it over and lay it down over here. Adhesive side up, so I don't lose a photo like I did recently when I stuck down something that already had adhesive on the back and stuck it right into the photo. And then I couldn't find my photo, even though somebody said, look on the back. I didn't clue in. All right, so we're going to need some Versamark ink. I've got a little piece of scrap paper, and we've got our Versamark ink to do our stamping. And we also need our embossing powder. Embossing powder. Where are you? It was just here. Now I don't see it. Let me look. Is it up here? Nope, that's a different color. I was rearranging things in my craft room, and that's always a bad thing to do because then you can never find, oh, there it is, looking right at it. You can never find what you're looking for because even though it's right there, you don't see it. Okay, on our chubbier piece here, I'm going to use one of the designs from the Love This Moment stamp set. I just want a little design on there. So I've got this one, and it's 3 little boxes, almost like you could make a checklist or something, but I'm going to use it as a design element. And I was kind of trying to decide between that and the little chevrons, but I figured the 3 little ones that are already on one stamp set would actually line up better for me. And I got it backwards. We're doing this on the small one. Now we do need to just use our anti-static here. Just run that little pouch over our cardstock so that we get rid of as much static as we can so that our little tiny granules of plastic don't try to stick to everything that they shouldn't. Okay, let's grab our little squares and we're going to try and line them up, stamp them down, and that's that. And some embossing powder. Woo, that came out in a chunk. And there we go. Okay, ready to be embossed. I'm going to set that aside. Then we're going to come in with the little words from this same stamp set that say cheese. And it's not, he wasn't cooking with any cheese because my husband's a vegan. But I thought that photo of him, we could add a little say cheese because, of course, Mom was paparazziing him while he was trying to get dinner made. And, you know, how loving that is. Cheese, say cheese. I'm trying to take a picture of you. I want to remember this moment for the rest of my life when you volunteered to cook supper. My kids have cooked supper quite a bit since then. In fact, Joshua is out there right now helping his dad make some supper. But, oh, I just stuck I was trying to get some stray bits off, and I stuck my brush right in the letters. Okay, let's try that again. So I'm just using, if you've ever had a problem with stray embossing powder, it helps to have a dry little brush that you can just bring in and give it a little extra love there. The little anti-static-y pouch really does help. But sometimes it's inevitable. You're going to get stray little bits. And if you do what I did, where you accidentally brush off the stuff you actually want, that's okay. Just add some more embossing powder quick before everything dries, and you'll be good to go. Okay, let's grab this with our tweezers to keep our fingers from getting too warm while we're crafting. And let's heat up our heat embossing. I love heat embossing. I love watching it change from dull and powdery to shiny and bright. It's very satisfying, my daughter says. Satisfying. And I always hold that up off my work surface so that the heat doesn't affect anything on my tabletop. And there we go. And now once this is warmed up, this one will go pretty quickly. And yes, I could have done more squares, but I'm keeping it simple. And we're just going to go with 3. Just to make my life easy. There we go. They've gone through the change. They've had their hot flash. And they've gone through the change. And now we're good to go. All right. Now, there's a little bit of dustiness on here from that anti-static. So I'm just going to do my trick where I rub it on my jeans to remove any extra powder. And do it to both of them. There we go. So there's our heat embossed little bits. Let's bring back in our layout, which of course I stuck my scrap paper down on the adhesive because, you know, it was there. So I've peeled it off the back now. Don't worry, I have a little eraser that takes that adhesive off when I'm all done so it can go safely into my album without sticking to everything. All right now, so this little piece here with the little dots, just a design, I want to grab my paper snips and I'm going to just snip, kind of centering it. This is why it wasn't pre-cut, so I could have something to hold on to and then I can center it after the fact. I want it hanging over just a smidge and then we're going to trim it off like that. There we go. And then we can stick that down. Just to add some little details. Now, I did not come up with this entirely out of my own noggin. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Sometimes we like to have little prompts to get our crafting going, right? And so this one was prompted by a layout that I saw on Pinterest. And I forgot to write down the name, so let me just grab it quick. so that I can tell you. Gotta give the recognition to where it should be. So it was posted by Letitia BG Illustrations, and it was pinned by Sonia Scrap, but I don't think she's the creator because there's a watermark on it. So I will write it in the comments or in the description, but I think it's Letitia BG Illustration was the original person. So this one has already been cut, but I wanted to add a little bit more embellishment, and I think I'm going to do that before I stick it down. And from the collection, let me just grab so you can see. I know grabbing is not a nice thing, but let me grab out of my little package here. There's one piece of paper in this collection that I have just had so much fun fussy cutting, and that is this one. There's another one that's all bunches of flowers. It's actually the back side of that beautiful little floral. But look at all those gorgeous veggies. And so I've been having fun fussy cutting this for various projects. You see me using it. My adhesive rolls, my husband buys them for me. Whenever he wants to finish up an order on Amazon and get the free shipping, he adds adhesive to it for me. So remind me later, send me a message, and I can give you the name of it. It's a weird name, so I can't say it. I don't know how to say it. You have to read it to know what it is. Okay. These little radishes were cut out of the paper. And the interesting thing is that they're not all the same. These two are the same, but this one, you see how this one has all dark green leaves, but these ones have a light leaf there? So I thought that was kind of cute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some adhesive on the back of my cardstock. And I'm going to plant some radishes. I thought it would be kind of cute to have some radishes growing out of my piece of paper. Just like it was fresh out of the garden, right? So we're going to add this one right in the center and just have it like it was coming up fresh out of the garden ground. See that? You can just see the little top of the radish. I tried growing radishes in my garden. Let's add this one off to the side. And they kept bolting on me. Have you ever had planted radishes and had them bolt? That's where they get too hot and it goes all to top and seed and you don't actually get any radish. And one year I planted them like 3 times and I finally had to give up and, give in that I was not going to get a single radish. I think maybe we tried eating one, but it was ridiculously weird. So sometimes life is just like that. Not all the planning you do, and then it just doesn't work out. And I think I tried again the next year, and then I said, that's it. Radishes, we'll just buy our radishes from the store because they're just not going to cooperate with us. So that's my pretend like we grew some radishes. And let's also add in some lettuce because he was making this lovely salad here. So if you look at the lettuces on there, you will also notice that this one has some darker leaves in the back and this one has some lighter. So I think that kind of looks nice together. So what we're going to do, I've got some adhesive stuck to the back. And I just want to kind of group them together in a little bunch here. So kind of like that. And then we're just going to stick them on down like so. So we can still see that wood grain coming around, but it kind of looks like he's just been reaching over here and adding lettuce to his salad. And then we need a title on here. So the space that I've reserved for the title are these 2 pieces of Blackberry Bliss. So I'm going to add a little bit of something up in this corner to give it some recognition as the beginning of the title. And I want to pull in the same peach pie color that's down in the opposite corner. So of course I had to trim out some of the carrots from that paper. So we're going to make ourselves a little double bunch of carrots here. And let's see, how do we want to do it? Maybe we'll do a little crisscross action. Why not? And we're just going to stick them up there like that. But I'm going to preserve just that little nick of the corner there. Remember how we said we've got blackberry touching all the corners. So I don't want to completely cover just that little snippet of the corner, because that will keep it fresh in our mind. All right. So the title I'm going to use, I created with some of that same color, the peach pie, and I used the mini alphabet dies, and I have cut out dinner is served. So let's grab our pieces and get them lined up. There we got an N, N, E, and then we'll glue them down. So we just want to kind of get our spacing. So dinner is, there's the E's. You got to make sure you spell things right? We don't want severed. Dinner is severed. We want dinner is served. And we'll kind of bump that over. It's kind of centered from top to bottom in the space. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to need some liquid glue for this. And do the handy dandy trick, literally the handy dandy trick, where we add some glue to our hand, grab our tweezers, and then we're just going to dip it in the glue, tap it off on our hand to remove excess, and then we will just go ahead and stick them down. It seems to be the quickest, easiest, least messy inducing way that I have found to glue anything that's a little bit non-traditional. You know, little bits, die cutting things especially. Dinner. Let's see if I have enough glue here. I used almost all of it there. I like how the R has the little sort of little tail or foot that comes up on there. I'll add a little bit more glue, and you don't want to add a whole like bubble puddle of glue. You want more of a flat puddle of glue, a skiff, I guess, so that it's not all over the place, and so that it doesn't wrap around the edges of your die cut pieces when you stick it in there. Now, I started in from this edge, and I want this word to end at the same place, and the spacing in between is totally how it's going to end up. Okay, so I'm going to start at the end, which is why I stuck it down there, spelled correctly, hopefully, because spelling backwards is sometimes a little bit of a trick. Served. I think we're going to need a little bit more glue for just the last two letters. Oh, Rhonda says she's never had luck growing radishes either. I'm not alone. Hooray. My tomatoes did great. My cucumbers did pretty good. My peppers, they did okay. They weren't the best ever. We had decent luck with peas. We even grew some beet. Like some of them were even just in like old recycling bins out on the front porch. Not fancy or anything, but serviceable. And yeah, so we tried. We did a whole bunch of things. We had two little garden areas that I kind of put together in the backyard, but you know, mix and match a little. And probably didn't buy. I think we got our seeds here in Canada from like Home Depot. You know, so it's not like I, you know, did a fancy mail order seeds or anything. It was kind of casual, casual, is that how you want to call it? Casual gardening. Yeah. My husband's grandpa lived with us, and he was an avid gardener. He always had a large garden. My grandpa had a large garden. So when he was here, we were trying to, give him some normalcy after he had a stroke. And so having a garden and taking care of a garden, um, and just bringing fresh vegetables in kind of made him feel like, oh, people are doing things that I'm used to. I'm going to add a nice little red pepper down here for a little hint of embellishment and color. And then I've got this little bunch of tomatoes that I fussy cut. Now, I did fussy cutting with my paper because that's where I'm getting my embellishments from. But there is also a stamp and die set with this suite. So if you're not the fussy cutting kind of person that wants to sit and fussy cut out the pattern paper, you don't have to. You can get the stamp and die set and totally do it that way. Now, I've also got a little orange pepper, and I've got a little red onion here. All sorts of fun little vegetables on there, so we're going to make a little duet going down here with the peppers. But don't they look super cute? And then I thought we could also bring in, now I know this spot looks a little bare, but again, we did add that basic white there, and that's where I'm going to do my journaling. So once I figure out what I want to say, that will kind of get filled in with writing. So it won't look quite so bare in that spot. But I thought I could pull in some of these transparent adhesive-backed dots, and they're in Blackberry Bliss, Clear Garden Green, and Lemon Lime Twist. Let me grab my Take Your Pick tool. But I thought it might be nice to add, the end's coming off there. It might be nice to add a little bit of bling bling here and there. So let's come in with a little bit of the green right here, a smaller one, and a bigger one. I got glue on there. I'll rub that off later. And then maybe another one up there. Let's also add a couple over here maybe. Add one there. And one there. And that time we're actually going outside the border, which is fine. Now the original layout had some stitching. I don't know if it was actual stitching or not, but it had a row of stitching in between everything, which I really like the look of, but I wasn't going to accomplish that today. And so I have just left it as is, but that would really kind of make it look like a patchwork quilt. So those of you who like that look of patchwork quilting, you might get some use out of that kind of idea. All right, let's add, let me see, maybe we'll add, we'll add a couple down here, and then maybe one up here, like that. Yes, that's looking super cute. All right, I think I'm going to leave it like that. So we started out with our basic white 12 by 12. We put some adhesive on the back so that it would stay in place. We maintained that 1/2 inch border all the way around. We also maintained that blackberry edge all the way around here. Now this piece I could have also inked the edge of it in blackberry. But I think once I do the journaling, it'll fill in that space. And then, of course, we added in our lovely pattern papers from the To Market collection. And we kind of tried to keep small scale with a couple of the patterns. The wood grain is sort of a non-neutrally pattern, I guess. But then we had the larger scale in the embellishments with those gorgeous big vegetables that were fussy cut out. I like that some of our embellishing is on top, some is in behind, some of it is the center of the focus of a piece, and some of it is just added on for a little extra touch. And of course we added that little bit of heat embossing here and our die cut letters for our title, little bit of bling, and there we go, a nice layout. I hope my son approves and we can document the night that he made salads and hot dogs for supper and that he planned, shopped, and cooked dinner and set the table and cleared up after. All just because he wanted to. All right. Have a wonderful evening. I'll see you again soon. Happy crafting. Toodaloo. Bye.